Have you ever wondered what is the difference between being religious and being spiritual? Now, which one is better? And what can I get from all of this? Hello, my name is Emanuel Gutierrez, and I am here to answer a few questions when it comes to the differences of being religious or being spiritual. A lot of people have a hard time with this, and they easily confuse one with the other. So, what are the major differences between being religious and being spiritual? Let me start explaining the first one here. Religion. What is religion? So, religion a religion is an institution that is composed of members that follow and worship a deity or a teacher through someone else's theologies, dogmas, texts, rituals, interpretations, and beliefs. You see, a religion will usually put a focus in believing in a deity or a spiritual teacher and in repeating spiritual experiences. Many times, these teachers or leaders can receive divine status and maybe even be worshipped by their followers. A religion usually touches the surface of spirituality. You see, when it comes to this, we can see, and I could probably make this illustration a little bit bigger here, where you can see, religion usually touches the surface of spirituality. And so, as you can see in this image, spirituality is in the middle and you see religion in the edge. What this means is basically that at the core, we're all seeking something higher, but religion usually stays on the outer edges of this. You see, but a lot of members have a hard time with this and they really don't want to recognize this. Historically, many religions have become entangled with economic, political, and power structures of society, and many take advantage of such positions also. I usually say, when I explain this to my students, that religion is really a mixture of ego and spirituality. You can see that little formula that I put there, spirituality plus ego equals religion. For this reason, you'll find that many religions have incongruencies between their words and their actions. And please make a note that most human institutions have these incongruencies. These are all part of having a human ego, that we tend to think and say different things. Okay, we also take action on the things that we're also not saying. So we need to be very careful with this. All right. Now, religions are notorious for competing openly or secretly against each other. So this is something which you will always see, that one religion directly or indirectly is going to be speaking about the other religion and saying that they're a little bit superior, or they have more to offer, or they're more special. And this is a common language among many religions. Now, the way that I explain this, and I will show you in this illustration here, you'll see that, religions usually teach that their way is the only way. You see, I put a little sign there that says, I have the only truth. And this seems to be the slogan of most religions. Some teach tolerance of other religions, but rarely do they teach you to understand them. So this is very difficult, because I have assisted various seminaries and various courses where I've seen this language over and over again, where they say, yeah, we tolerate this other group and so forth, but they don't really make an effort in understanding what is it that group is really saying, or what is it that they're really feeling. Maybe they're just a little bit scared of that. So, as you can see that, it would be obvious for you to imagine that, religions usually discourage people from thinking outside of their teachings. And you see a lot of people suffering from this because their religions usually put them inside this small cage that doesn't allow them to expand or grow, and it can be hard for a lot of people. Also, a lot of religions tend to believe that there is power in numbers. So, the bigger the numbers, the bigger the quantity of followers, the better. But they also, not only do they want numbers, they want numbers that submit to them. They want people that simply will accept anything that they say without any questioning. So they want devout followers. And what's interesting is that you have these followers that are usually blind, devout, very passionate, or very fanatical. They're usually admired and rewarded within these religions too. Although many religions use inspirational and loving words, many religions include directly or indirectly teachings of prejudice, fear, and separation. And I've encountered this in many theologies and many interpretations. And it's something which truly, as a reverend, it makes me very sad, because you realize that instead of practicing a perspective of interfaith, they tend to just, say, yeah, talk to this person, but be careful with this other person, don't visit them too much, don't visit any other church. And so, yeah, you keep them over there, we stay over here. And we have this constant prejudice, fear, and separation within these religious institutions. Now, religions also teach about their own flavor of spirituality, and at the same time, they discourage members from seeking their unique spiritual path, sometimes by, as I mentioned before, inducing fear. But there's a lot of good to religion. I mean, I don't want to make it sound like I'm bashing on religion and I'm saying, religion is bad, is no good. No, 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 no. Religion does a lot of good. But unfortunately, we human beings, by our nature, by our egoic nature, we tend to contaminate what was intended as a good thing at one point. When the religions usually begin, that's usually when they're at their highest point spiritually. But then as time goes by, they start losing some of that spirituality, and they start becoming more dogmatic, more religious, and more oriented towards the material, which is an irony to this whole thing. So, but the real strength of religion, modern religion, is in community and in support. So the true benefit of religion that you will definitely immediately see is the community and the support. Now, religion has the potential of doing a lot of good, since it can mold society. And history has shown us, you can see, in fact, a lot of the Western world has been molded by the Roman Catholic and by the Protestant Christian movements. Everything revolves around that. Everything from our calendar, everything from our special holidays, our days, everything is affected by this. So you can see that. But unfortunately, the biggest thing is that religion also adds it, and it gives the leaders an additional social control structure. You see, the religion also teaches people to be obedient, and this could be good for some political leaders to have a group of people that will follow a particular belief. So sometimes religion can be the precursor of a society which believes in a government with the same level of faith, and they will follow it even blindly to some extent. But unfortunately, here's the thing that I tend to frown upon when it comes to religion, is that many times, the diversity may not be embraced in religion, and this can be hard for individuals that think differently. Despite of all of this, religions do their best to communicate spiritual truths to their followers through the experience of others, this is the way that they do it. Many religions are also famous for giving freely, but some have strings attached. And since also you will see some leaders that usually have some expectation in return for their quote unquote free offerings. It doesn't apply to all religions, but you can see it more openly on some of them. In general, what is religion? To keep it simple, religion is culture, family, food, dance, rituals, customs, traditions, language, community. So, as you can see, there's a very strong cultural component in religion. And this is the reason why you know, religions can be very, very difficult to leave. When your family, when all of your loved ones belong to this religion and your whole life has been molded around this culture, it's very, very difficult to leave a religion. For this reason, as a spiritual counselor, I tell my clients, to give your religion an honest chance first. Find other groups within your religion that seem to have similar questions. Start by that first. I don't encourage people to be changing religions constantly, because changing religions is like changing a functional language, saying I'm going to stop speaking English and I'm going to start speaking Japanese from now on in everything I do. So this is a very difficult decision to make, and changing religion could be similar to almost changing a language to some people. So this is something to remember. Now, then let us go to the other side of the coin. What is spirituality? Spirituality is very interesting, because spirituality is a quest taken by a person to connect to something greater than themselves or the material world around them. You see, that is spirituality. It is usually an attempt to answer all those philosophical and existential questions about life, meaning, purpose, and connection. That is spirituality. A spiritual person is, above all, and remember this, above all, a seeker. It is not a believer. He is not a believer. They do not attempt, and they do not need a religion, a dogma, ritual, nor sacred text for their inner quest to occur. So that's a major difference here. So you could be religious and be spiritual, but also, when you're religious, when you're spiritual, sorry, you usually tend to move aside from being religious. I will speak a little bit more about that later. Now, a spiritual person wants to experience something greater firsthand without the need of other people's experiences. They say, no. That's nice that the Buddha had that experience, and it's nice that Jesus Christ had that experience, and it's great that Mohammed had that experience, but I want to have my own experience, and I want to go through this whole thing firsthand. That's the major difference between a spiritual and a religious person. The spiritual person develops a deeper knowledge that allows them to find peace in the middle of adversity and challenges of human life, even while being completely alone. The spiritual person embraces the beauty and the pain of all dualities in the world. So, whether something is good, bad, big, small, dark, bright, etc., it really doesn't make a difference for the spiritual person, because they understand that all poles are necessary. The good and the bad complement each other, and they're necessary for the other one to exist. Very yin-yang, as you can see in the illustration that I have next to me here. Now, the spiritual person is very particular also, because the spiritual person develops an appreciation for both sides of any situation. You can see in the illustration here that I have a number 6 or number 9 on the image there. And one person will see a 9, another person will see a 6. A spiritual person will see both sides and appreciate them both, and even be capable of feeling both sides simultaneously. A spiritual person does not necessarily try to be better, doesn't necessarily try to be a better human being. But, it's interesting, because the spiritual person becomes a better human being automatically as a result of the sincere quest and the quality of the questions that they're seeking and that they are answering. A spiritual person also feels connected to everything and finds bliss in this connection. Therefore, he or she does not need an institution or a group in order to succeed spiritually. A spiritual person may sometimes appear to be different or rebellious to the status quo. And we have many sacred texts which explain a lot of these spiritual teachers. They did behave in ways that were rebellious for their time, and because they only respond to a higher force and they don't need to succumb to any established institution. A spiritual person is also very difficult to control because they don't fear death nor pain, since they've already found everything from a greater source within. Once they reach this source, nothing external can replace it. This can be hard for many people to understand. Why do they behave this way? It doesn't make sense. That's what they say. Spiritual people don't need followers, but people become attracted to them because their energy brings about all this peace and this harmony to all of those that come in contact with them. They know, spiritual people, they know they are co-creators in this universe. They are connected to source and they feel that they are co-creators in the world. And they're not concerned with being different. So a spiritual person is not affected by opinions of others or the way they dress, the way they behave. They could care less, most of them. They really do not care. A spiritual person is usually also known for responding to higher knowing in their decision-making process. So they rely on a combination of logic and intuition when it comes to making decisions. Many times they make a decision not because it makes sense, but because it feels like the right thing to do. A spiritual person is not looking for miracles. Why? Because they see and feel miracles in everything that they do. They're seeing miracles in everything that they're doing and everything that they're touching. A spiritual person can discern their inner voices, such as their beliefs, their body, their mind, their ego, their soul. They also learn to coexist harmoniously with all of them. You see? A spiritual person also learns that we are all unique expressions of a universal intelligence. They know we are all perfect in our imperfections, and we are all connected to the same source. So the spiritual person feels that we're all beautiful, divine works in progress. So, for this reason, and I'm going to show this in a way that's a little bit larger here. You will be able to see it here. Okay. For this reason, many spiritual people begin their journey within a religion and then learn to rise above it by becoming spiritual for themselves, inside or outside of their religion. So we can have a spiritual person within a religion, but you rarely see religiousness within a spiritual person. Keep in mind that spiritual people might be well educated into the dogmas, traditions, and sacred texts of a particular religion, but in practice they usually have a different approach, openly or privately, because they are clear on the differences. They are also very clear that religion is a human activity and can sometimes be completely disconnected from spiritual or the divine. Therefore, it is my belief that we could all aspire to become more spiritual and less religious. So, I hope that this resonates with you and that you're able to understand many of these differences, because many times they're not really explained very clearly. Again, I welcome you to my channel where I specialize in self-development tools, coaching, spirituality, and growth. Thank you for watching.